On today's episode of Locked On Warriors, we preview Game 2 between the Warriors and Thunder. Wait a second. Oh, yeah. The Warriors aren't in the playoffs. What? I'm not used to this. This is bizarre. I don't like it. I do love the playoffs. This has been a hell of a first round. As I said in the previous episode, maybe the best first round of the playoffs ever. But it's not cool that the Warriors aren't in it. However, there is room for hope. One player, the only player that I would consider trading Jonathan Kuminga for might be out there, might be available. You might think that when I talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo going to the Golden State Warriors, you may very well think,
That's ignorant.
yeah, I don't blame you.
It's ignorant. You're being ignorant.
Okay, shut up. I heard the first time. The point is, it is a possibility. You better be rooting for those Indiana Pacers, folks, because if the Pacers win this series, and especially if they clean house, it is not as far-fetched of an idea as you may think it is. Giannis to the Warriors. Let's talk about it next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. It's where we're exclusively live. We're live today. I missed everyone. The last couple episodes were recorded, and I felt like enough of that. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it. I have a competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. The program is also available on that platform, a platform I call the lesser of two evils, kind of like our political system when it comes time to vote. You can follow the program there at Locked On Warriors. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, everyone in the chat. We got a few people already in. Mr. Majestic, the 13th. Is that true? Is your name honestly part of a lineage that goes that far back? Because I would call you royalty if that's the case. Mr. Majestic writes, we're more likely to have Joel Embiid to the Golden State Warriors than Giannis Antetokounmpo. I would disagree with you for one reason and one reason only. The GM of the Philadelphia 76ers is a gentleman named Dork Elvis. And it's nearly impossible to make moves with that guy. But we'll touch on Giannis in just a second. Alan Ruck, I wish. He writes, get rid of Steve Kerr. Probably not happening yet. Alan Ruck also writes, would you take Joel Embiid for Kuminga? Yes. There are a few players I would take out there, but I don't think Joel Embiid will be available for the simple reason that the Sixers, regardless of what happens this series, have hope beyond this season. Tyrese Maxey is young. That alone gives that team aspirations. If your team has aspirations, they're not going to trade the house. I'm going to talk about the Bucks in a moment, who are a different story. And then you have folks, of course, like GP92510, who writes, Giannis doesn't fit the Warriors game.
It's ignorant. You're being ignorant.
You
makes no damn sense.
Giannis fits any system, any team. He's one of the greatest players this game has ever seen. I'm not being hyperbolic saying that. He is a force. And if you don't want him, something's wrong with you. I'm sorry. No offense, GP92510, but that name is kind of crazy. Or that not name, the name too, but your suggestion is kind of crazy. Patrick Singh writes that Steve Kerr would not know how to play a big like Giannis. Yeah, but Giannis is that good where he could even overcome the buffoonery of a head coach who doesn't like big players in a game of basketball where size is almost everything. Omar, that is so rude of you. Trade me. Oh, you're just kidding. I don't blame you. Look, I can't make everyone happy. But The Giannis thing. I'm hearing people talk about it. And the reason why I want to touch on the subject, and I brought it up as well last week, it's interesting. I'm flattered by the fact, first of all, that I'm noticing more and more how many other programs and writers are watching this show and then using it for their content. Flattered, honored. But regardless, yeah, I brought up Giannis last week. Now I'm seeing people talk about it. And here's the biggest reason why it's a possibility. But first of all, before we start talking about just the idea of Giannis to the Warriors, I want to play this clip real fast. This is from a little over a year ago, or maybe a little less than a year ago. This was during Media Day, I believe, last year. And this was Giannis Antetokounmpo himself talking about who the best player in the NBA is. Let's hear from Giannis.
Do I believe I'm the best player in the world? No. I think the best player in the world is the person that is the last one standing. Is the person that takes his team to the finish line, and helps them win the game. Win games and become champion. 2 years ago when we did that, yeah, when I was sleeping in my bed, I was like, yeah, maybe I'm the best player in the world. But now, no. In my opinion, the way I view it, the winner is the best. The guy that wins is the best. When we play a game of ping pong, when I go in my house and I play against my brothers, when I win and I play against the Nazis, coaches and Alex, and then my mom and Mariah, and I win, I'm the best. Yeah, if Costas played really good, a great series, but he didn't win, how can he be the best when I won? So that's how I view it. I believe that the best player in the world is Steph Curry until the next player.
And look, he made it very clear that he said Stephen Curry's the best player because at the time of that interview was following the Warriors winning the 2022 World Championship. So he credited Steph as being the best largely because he was the best player on the best team, as based on the Larry O'Brien trophy, who hoists it. But nonetheless, it doesn't, that clip, the reason why I played it is because those two do have a positive relationship. Giannis does have a tremendous amount of respect for Stephen Curry, and the Bay Area would be such a perfect home for Giannis Antetokounmpo. We'll even welcome his brothers, plural, I think, right? If the dude loves Milwaukee and is happy there, he's going to be happy in the Bay Area. This is an individual who does not necessarily seek out the limelight. I think he would love the culture here. And the reason why I don't think it is an impossibility for Giannis Antetokounmpo to join the Warriors is because of all the teams in the NBA. The Warriors would have the best package to offer. All right. Again, if you're an everydayer of this program, you know how much I love Jonathan Kuminga. I see his ceiling as being astronomically high. I don't think we're going to even see that ceiling for another 2-3 years at a minimum. Kid's only 21. But there are a few players, very select few, that I would trade him for. And you've all heard and seen the reports about his trade value. In the same vein that Andrew Wiggins has virtually no trade value, and to get his contract off your books, you probably would have to attach a draft pick or another player of value just to get rid of him. That's how low he's fallen. Jonathan Kuminga is the complete opposite. Jonathan Kuminga's value is sky high because most other NBA teams see his value. Now, when you look at the Milwaukee Bucks and the core difference between the Bucks and the Sixers, and it's a huge reason why a player like Joel Embiid would not be available, whereas a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo would, is look at the prospects. I mentioned a moment ago the Sixers, again, they have some young talent on that team. They've got a coach who's not going anywhere. And who I think the players mostly love. But so the Sixers are not trading Embiid because they think they're title contenders for the next 2-3 years, regardless of how delusional you think that concept is. That is what Daryl Morey, a.k.a. Dork Elvis, thinks. The Milwaukee Bucks, let me read off to you what their roster is right now. Dame Lillard, who's awesome, but he's not getting any younger, folks. And Dame Lillard, it's no secret. Look, he's going through a divorce. That's never fun to begin with. He's in a town where he knows no one. He's just not super happy. He's going to turn 34 this summer. If the Bucks collapse in this first round series against the Pacers, as probably expected, Dame Lillard is gone. He's going to get traded so fast, and the likely destination for him is going to be the Miami Heat, because the Miami Heat can offer a player like Jaime Jaquez. The Miami Heat can throw in a Tyler Hero or somebody probably younger, but at least to make the salaries work. The Bucks, let me read off their roster real fast. And the point is, if the Bucks lose this series, there is a very strong possibility that we're talking rebuild for that organization. They don't have pieces to build around besides Giannis. Giannis is one of the only bright sides on that team. You got Dame Lillard, who's turning 34. You got Chris Middleton, who's turning 33. You got Brook Lopez, well into his 30s. Bobby Portis is not getting any younger. Malik Beasley is a role player. Pat Connaughton, Pat Beverly, Jay Crowder, AJ Green. The list goes on and on. These are aging role players. So if the Bucks lose against the Pacers in this first round series, they're done. They're cooked. It's not like they're going to be looking for a star for Giannis Antetokounmpo in a hypothetical trade. Whereas the Sixers, you'd have to match Joel Embiid with another star of his caliber. The Bucks are in a position where if things go as expected in this Pacers series and they get their asses kicked, they're not retooling this offseason. It is full-on rebuild. And when you're in a rebuild, you're not looking for other star players who might get you to the playoffs. You're looking for assets. You're looking for youth. You're looking for an entirely new generation, a new phase, a new team altogether. And the Warriors have 4 youngsters they can offer on top of a bevy of first-round picks. And you could also throw in a Chris Paul. You could also throw in an Andrew Wiggins to make the salaries work. One of the rules of the CBA, it's not a new rule. It's been around for a long time. Teams have to fill 90% of their salary each year. You can't be like a scumbag organization like the Oakland A's and just fill out a roster with 20 million. No, you got to still give money to players. So the Bucks will still have to fill contracts and fill those slots. So throw in an Andrew Wiggins or a Chris Paul and then let them do whatever they want with them at that point. The point is, you could literally offer a package that includes Kuminga, Moody, Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis. Name one other team out there. Plus, you could throw 2 to 3 first-round picks. Obviously, the less is better, but for a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo, who, by the way, has his contract ends at the same time as Stephen Curry's and as Draymond Green, that is the only guy out there that if you make a big push, if you make a big move, the Warriors are back in contention. When you have a player like Giannis, you're suddenly recruiting free agents out there because they want to come to your team, and you've got hope. So for anyone out there who says that's a pipe dream, far from it. And that's the only player out there that I will advocate trading the whole farm in terms of the youngsters on this team for, because you get Giannis, you match him up with Steph, you have Dre by his side, and then you still have some other young pieces on your team. You still have Guy Santos, you still have Lester Quinones. Who knows if all 4 youngsters will be required? And you can just fill the rest of the roster the same way the Lakers fill their roster, the same way all these other contenders fill their roster, because with a Giannis on your roster, you can now attract talented free agents. You can't attract them when your team is the Warriors without Giannis. Okay, when you have Kevin Durant on your team, yes. But when Steph is still in his prime and the team's looking like they're contenders, yes. This phase of the Warriors, you are not attracting a thing for vet minimum contracts. When you add Giannis Antetokounmpo, hell yeah. See, Lynn says Kerr won't let Giannis play more than 10 minutes since he's over 6'4". Yeah. You joke, but it's kind of sad that there is a hint of truth to that. Matt Brotherton says, do you think Giannis wants to give a full season with Dame? That's the only thing I see standing in the way. Depends, but there are a lot of whispers out there that Giannis is already unhappy. And if this thing ends the way it's looking, he may want out. Dame may want out. That Bucks team's going to look for a full-on rebuild. And the Warriors have what it takes to facilitate that process because the Bucks see those young players on the roster and they go, we can rebuild and start winning now. We can build a team around Jonathan Kuminga and Jaime Jaquez from the Miami Heat because that's likely who they would trade Dame Lillard to. This is very possible, folks. And I just don't want you thinking that it's impossible because I hear some people saying, no, there's no chance. There is a chance, all right? But things have to fall in the right places, and that starts with the Bucks finishing up losing to the Pacers. Don't rule it out, is all I'm trying to say. We got some sponsors, got to give some love to. First up on the agenda is a very valuable sponsor in terms of what they provide. That's BetterHelp. Therapy is important, folks. I understand that some people say it's not for everyone, it's not for you. I'm not trying to push it on you, but it's certainly not bad for you. No, I don't think anything's bad for you if what you're seeking is to become a better version of yourself, and what you want to work on is the most important organ in your body, your brain. And today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba and get on your way to being your best self. And never mind the fact that therapy is, it's the word derivative is therapeutic, right? You're talking things out. You're trying to reduce whatever is ailing you mentally. There's nothing wrong with seeking help for that. And one of the many beautiful parts about BetterHelp is they take insurance. So hopefully it's a cost-effective measure. And they save you time and money in terms of the fact that it's virtual. You don't have to go to an office. If you worry about stigmas, you're doing it right from the comfort of your home. Keep those cozies on. Put your debit card away so you don't have to put money in the car for gas, and just flip on your computer and speak to a qualified professional who can hopefully help you. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You're damn right. In this case, your team is the Golden State Warriors. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft is available now. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise. Very fascinated about my Niners with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, you can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. My first live show in a few days. Bruce Maro writes, KD is more likely to be back on the Warriors than Giannis playing for the Warriors. Why? After everything I just said, why do you still feel that way? Never mind the fact that Kevin Durant is locked into a contract and the Suns are not moving him. And I do agree, Bruce Morrow, that it does feel like basketball is dead right now. But what is your reasoning for that? Because I don't hear any logic behind there's no chance in hell Giannis is coming to the Warriors. I just hear pessimism. I just hear statements without anything validating it. Tony B, it is nice to dream about Giannis to the Warriors. Not impossible. Now, there's two ways to look at this. One is the Warriors, this is not a doom and gloom offseason, contrary to how a lot of people I'm noticing are feeling. You're going to see improvements from 4 players on this team, and not just subtle improvements, considerable improvements. Kuminga is going to be a lot better. expect 20 plus points a game from him next year. If Moses Moody gets a run, which let's really hope that's the case, he deserves to get a full season with real minutes. That kid next year could be a 15 point per game scorer, maybe even more. He's got a sweet stroke. He plays defense. He's got a great interior game. I want more Moody. And then Pods. I mean, that kid's 3-point shot. I believe he shot over 60% in the month of April from beyond the arc. He shot over 43% from three in college. That number, his shooting from 3-point is going to considerably increase next year. He's going to be a considerably better player. Trace Jackson Davis is going to be a considerably better player. I loved what I saw from Lester Quinones this year. I think that kid belongs. I think he can make a positive impact. Guy Santos is a baller. He's going to make an impact. And that's just the young players. Do not be pessimistic about the Warriors next year. But with all those young names who are going to be improving next year, folks, you could also, those are assets that a team like the Bucks, who are facing a future without Giannis, those are the assets a team like the Bucks want. Fondler writes, you think Giannis would want to come to the Warriors? I covered this at the very beginning of the episode. Why not? He loves Steph. The Bay Area is the perfect setting for someone like him who's not necessarily seeking the limelight and the stardom of an LA or New York or Miami. Giannis seems comfortable in quiet settings that are cultured. And if he's happy in Milwaukee, what do you think he's going to feel like in San Francisco, in the Bay Area? Are you kidding me? No, Omar, I'm not going to, this will not be the program to discuss trading Curry. It's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream. I did see Scott Osler's column from the San Francisco Chronicle about that. Not entertaining it. It's not realistic. The team loves him too much. He's going to be a Warrior for life. Tony B writes, the Warriors have a better package than Oklahoma could offer. Yes. And I'll tell you why. Because the only thing the Oklahoma City Thunder have are draft picks. If the Oklahoma City Thunder start offering actual players, it's going to decimate that roster. Like the talent that they would move. Like, who are you thinking of them moving, right? Josh Giddey. I mean, people are already starting to sour on him. They're not going to trade Jalen Williams. He's one of the core pieces of that team. So who would they move? They're not moving Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They're not moving Chet Holmgren. Those are players they actually need. Whereas the Warriors, those young assets, you move them, you keep your veteran pieces in play, you're in a win now position if you're Golden State. So I don't agree with that, Tony B. Now, Lil Panda brings up a topic that I'm going to talk about when we come back. Oh, and Tony B, that's interesting. The Bucks, according to Tony B, I don't know much about this, but you also write that the Bucks will never trade with Miami under any circumstances. Well, then Dame can go somewhere else. But regardless, I don't know much about that. Now, Lil Panda, when we come back, I'm going to touch on this because there's a lot of discussion about Klay Thompson and his future with the Warriors, and rightfully so. And Lil Panda asked, do you think Klay will come back? Let's talk about that in just a moment. Let's go after we give some love to our other sponsor for this afternoon. And yes, during the offseason, a lot of shows will be during the day. Sorry, folks, if that means you get to see me better. Our other sponsor of the day is Monopoly Go. The time-honored tradition of one of the greatest board games ever. I've been told I'm a competitive person. And whether or not you think that's true, I do have a competitive side. Hell, we all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like the classic Monopoly. Now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself, and the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day for the everydayers. Welcome to the offseason, where the Warriors are not on the playoffs. It's an absolute bummer, but you're not going to always just see me hosting shows. Mark Jones of ESPN, the voice of the NBA, him and Mike Breen is going to be coming on the program. You've seen a lot of the friends of the show. I'm going to be seeking out some big guests this offseason. I want different perspectives. Kristen Peak will hopefully join me when the draft comes around, even though the Warriors only have, I believe, the Bucks second round pick in this upcoming draft, which is sort of unfortunate unless the Warriors get somehow, because they're in the lottery, as crazy as that sounds, if they end up winning the lottery and getting one of the top 4 picks, they will keep it. Otherwise, that pick goes to Portland, if my facts are correct. So Clay, actually, I want to see real fast anyone else in the chat if there's anything I want to address as well. Bruce Maro mentioning Thenesis. Is that how you pronounce his brother's name? Yeah, bring him. Why not? You got to fill roster spaces if you're clearing all the youngsters to get Giannis in. Fowler brings up Lou Dort. I'm sorry, but Lou Dort does not carry the same value as Kuminga, Moody, Pajemski, or Trace Jackson Davis. He's very one-dimensional. I like him. I'm not criticizing Lou Dort, but I don't think he's as young as most of those guys, and he's much more one-dimensional. If you're talking rebuild, Lou Dort's a great piece for a contender, not as one of your core pieces for a rebuild. Bruce Morrow brings up an interesting point that Giannis cannot play with Draymond, 2 non-shooters. What do you think the Warriors have been doing what do you think they did in their championship year? Kevon Looney's no shooter. The idea of spacing is a bit overrated. I hear Kerr talking about it a lot. I hear fans to bring up spacing a lot. Is spacing good? Yes. Is talent more important? Yes. Is defense important? Yes. Can you score besides just shooting 3-pointers? Yes. Do you think the Celtics, with their 5-man lineup that won over 60 games, do you think they worry about spacing? I mean, look, Derek White can shoot. They can all shoot, but they're not elite 3-point shooters, yet they're doing fine. Don't overemphasize things like spacing. It's not as important as you think it is. Is it important? Yes. Is having a player like Giannis, who's going to take up every piece of gravity being inside, more important? Hell yes. Kurt Porter brings up the draft. Let's save that for another show. I don't know if the Warriors can get Zach Edey. That's super random. So anyways, now Robert Bryant brings up Klay Thompson, as we mentioned a moment ago. His thing is going to be interesting. The bottom line for the Warriors is this when it comes to the salary cap. All right, this graphic is courtesy of Bobby Marks of ESPN, cap expert, who writes in this graphic that the Warriors, without adding Klay, without re-signing Chris Paul, and I've shown this graphic before, right now, in committed salary, they're already over the cap, which makes the idea of re-signing Klay possibly non-realistic. Joe Lacob has brought up the fact that you have to avoid the second apron 2 out of 4 years to avoid really punitive penalties, which includes losing draft picks. So there is an emphasis on getting below at least the second apron, which is $189.6 million. Again, the Warriors currently at 174. If we're entertaining a Warriors team that has Giannis, you're all in for the championship, and the Warriors will cross that second apron again and worry about the penalties later. And we know this because the Warriors, and Joe Lacob more specifically, entertained the thought of LeBron James. If you're bringing LeBron in, you're exploding your salary cap. So clearly Joe wants to win. Clearly he's shown time and time and again that while he can be prudent with his spending, case in point, Gary Payne II following the title year, that was a huge mistake. And they did that for money reasons. Trading Jordan Poole for Chris Paul, a decision made for largely money reasons. At the same time, while Joe likes to save money, he likes championships more. So if the Warriors make a big move this offseason for, let's say, Giannis Antetokounmpo, yes, Klay Thompson's coming back. Absolutely. Because you have his bird rights and you want to surround Giannis and Steph with elite players. Now, and so you're gonna cross that threshold. If a player like Giannis is not in play and you're looking at more of a retool for your roster where you're hoping for the best, but you're looking at the reality of the situation, which is that the Warriors have a lot of expensive contracts on their roster, despite being a 10 seed and missing the playoffs, then Klay might be gone. I think what it's going to come down to is this. Klay was offered 2 years, $48 million last year. I don't think that offer changes. If Klay decides that's now enough, he's going to come back, and then you're going to see the Warriors make moves like trading Kevon Looney. You're going to see, you might even see Gary Payton II get traded. He's got $9+ million on the books. And then I think the extension talks for Kuminga and Moody will be tabled until the following offseason. That is a luxury the Warriors can do. You might be upsetting your young players, but you also could be motivating them. And we've seen already the Warriors are comfortable making a decision like that, considering they did not give Klay what he wanted last offseason for the extension. Now, Patrick Singh brings up Lauri Markkanen. Let me get rid of this graphic here. He's not available. The Jazz aren't going to get rid of him. I would love to have him, but I bring up Giannis just because he's about to be in a situation with the Bucks where they are going to be losers, and he doesn't want to stay there. It's Milwaukee, for crying out loud. No, Kurt Porter or Giannis is not going to be a free agent. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Giannis's contract runs the same length as Steph, Dre, Kerr, Klay if he signs that 2-year extension. Cool Breeze asks, when is the date for all this, for all the offseason fun? Not till after the NBA Finals. We're not used to this. This is new territory, folks. I know the Warriors were in this not that long ago, but again, since I've been hosting the show, this is the first time they've been out of the playoffs this early. So the point is, the Klay thing, I think he comes back if the Warriors swing big and they get a player like Giannis. I think if the Warriors are focused on youth, if they're focused on trying to be competitive while at the same time trying to, manage their budget and not get into that second apron. Here's another huge perk of not breaching those aprons. You have the mid-level exception. That is a luxury the Warriors did not have last year because of how much money they spent. And the mid-level exception allows teams like the Warriors to get a lot of important players out there who don't want to sign for the veteran minimum. The Warriors got screwed over last offseason time and again with free agents who got offered sometimes pennies more from other teams. But look, pennies more, it's still more money. And I'm being metaphorical saying pennies. But the point is, the Warriors could not compete with a lot of other teams for free agents because of the lack of the mid-level exception. You stay under that second apron, and if you stay under the first apron, that's even more mid-level money you get to offer. That's going to play a part in all this as well. The Warriors want to be able to sign free agents besides just the veteran minimum. So the Klay thing, if they do sign him, Chris Paul's clearly gone. I think Chris Paul's gone regardless, but that's one of the only assets you have to get someone back outside of a Giannis trade, because he has a team option for $30 million. You exercise that, then you could trade him. And if you want him off your books, you trade him for a trade exemption. And then you can sign Klay. You can trade Looney as well, trade Gary Payton II. It's up in the air. But the point is, this is not doom and gloom this offseason. Yes, Giannis is a possibility. Love you folks. I really do. This is uncharted territory for the Golden State Warriors. Stephen Curry's going to be 37 next year. Give him Giannis. I want a 5th title for Steph. I can't thank all of you enough for joining this program. We'll be back at this very soon. Didn't even get a chance to talk about Dunleavy. There's a lot to discuss, to break down. We haven't even talked about who the leaders were this offseason for the Golden State Warriors in terms of statistics. I always love that kind of stuff. We'll talk about all that in days to come. Thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye.